In the heart of Miami's bustling medical district, Dr. Emily Carter was a name synonymous with excellence. At 42 years old, she had established herself as a leading cardiologist, known for her groundbreaking research on heart disease and her compassionate patient care. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, Emily had moved to Miami a decade earlier to further her career and embrace the city's vibrant lifestyle. Her reputation was impeccable. She was admired by colleagues and cherished by her patients. Emily lived in a luxurious high-rise condo overlooking Biscayne Bay. The condo, with its sleek modern design and floor-to-ceiling windows, mirrored her success and affluence. It was on a balmy Friday morning in early March 2021 when her colleagues and patients began to notice her absence. The day had started like any other. Emily had a full schedule of patients and a critical surgery planned for the afternoon. Her administrative assistant, Rachel Morris, a 29-year-old former nurse with a knack for organization, was the first to notice something was amiss. Rachel, who had been working with Emily for the past 2 years, became increasingly concerned when she couldn't reach her boss by phone or text. Emily had always been punctual and reliable, so her absence was out of character. Rachel's concern turned into alarm when Emily missed her scheduled surgery at Miami General Hospital. The surgery was a high-stakes procedure, and the team was left scrambling to find a replacement. Dr. John Roberts, a 50-year-old cardiologist with whom Emily had frequently collaborated, was the one who took over the operation. He was well aware of Emily's meticulous approach to her work and was equally baffled by her sudden disappearance. By early afternoon, the hospital had contacted Emily's emergency contacts, but there was no response. Rachel decided to visit Emily's condo, hoping to find some clue as to her whereabouts. When she arrived at the high-rise building, she was greeted by the concierge, Mr. Douglas Kane, a 55-year-old former security officer who had been working at the building for several years. He informed Rachel that Emily's car was parked in the garage, but there had been no sign of her leaving the building. Rachel took the elevator up to Emily's floor. As she approached the condo, she noticed that the door was slightly ajar. This was unusual. Emily was known for being meticulous about security. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, calling out for her boss. The condo was eerily quiet. The living room was in its usual pristine condition, but Rachel quickly noticed a few unsettling details. Emily's purse and phone were on a side table near the entrance, which was odd given that she would never leave home without them. Rachel ventured further into the condo, finding the kitchen and dining areas untouched. It was as if Emily had simply vanished from the middle of her day. The master bedroom was the last place Rachel checked. The bed was neatly made, and Emily's clothes were still in the closet. However, there were signs of a struggle. A chair had been knocked over, and the bedside lamp was lying on the floor. The sight made Rachel's heart race, and she immediately called 911. Miami Police Department's detective squad responded quickly. Detective Sarah Martinez, a 38-year-old veteran with a reputation for solving complex cases, was assigned to the case. She arrived at the condo with her team, including Detective Michael Green, a 32-year-old rookie who was eager to prove himself. Sarah was known for her sharp instincts and tenacity, and she took a methodical approach to the scene. Sarah and Michael carefully examined the condo. They collected fingerprints, analyzed the security footage from the building's cameras, and interviewed Rachel and Mr. Kane. The footage revealed nothing unusual. Emily had not been seen leaving the building, nor did anyone appear to have entered her unit in a suspicious manner. Detective Martinez noted the absence of any signs of forced entry. The apartment's security system was intact, and there were no indications of a burglary. It was as if Emily had disappeared into thin air. The lack of evidence and the serene state of the condo only deepened the mystery. The detectives decided to investigate Emily's recent activities. They interviewed her colleagues, friends, and family members, trying to piece together her last known whereabouts and any possible leads. They learned that Emily had been under significant stress due to her work, but no one had noticed any signs of trouble or danger. Emily's family was deeply concerned. Her mother, Margaret Carter, a retired school teacher living in Atlanta, was devastated by the news. Margaret, in her early 70s, had always been a supportive presence in Emily's life, and she struggled to understand why her daughter had vanished. Emily's younger brother, David Carter, a 39-year-old software developer, flew to Miami to assist in the search and support his mother. As days passed with no sign of Emily, the case garnered media attention. Local news outlets reported on the disappearance, highlighting Emily's achievements and the unsettling nature of her vanishing. The community rallied to support the search efforts. But despite numerous tips and leads, there were no breakthroughs. The initial investigation focused on Emily's personal and professional life, searching for any clues that might explain her sudden disappearance. Her colleagues, friends, and family were all questioned, but no one had any definitive answers. The case grew colder with each passing day, leaving the police, Emily's loved ones, and the community in a state of uncertainty and worry. The chapter of Emily Carter's disappearance began with hope and confusion, setting the stage for a deeper and more troubling investigation into the life of a woman who had seemingly vanished without a trace. As the days turned into weeks, the search for Dr. Emily Carter intensified, but the clues remained frustratingly elusive. The Miami Police Department continued to investigate her disappearance, but the case had begun to grow cold. Detective Sarah Martinez and her team had hit a wall in their efforts to uncover any tangible leads. Desperate for answers, Sarah decided to delve deeper into Emily's life, focusing on her professional and personal connections. The first breakthrough came from Emily's financial records. A thorough examination revealed several large, unexplained transactions in her bank account. These transactions were linked to a series of shell companies and anonymous offshore accounts. Sarah and her team enlisted the help of financial forensic experts to trace the money, which led them to discover a pattern of payments connected to illicit drug operations. Emily had been living a double life that no one had suspected. It became clear that, in addition to her prestigious career as a cardiologist, she had been secretly involved in a lucrative drug trafficking ring. The investigation uncovered that Emily had been funneling prescription drugs to a network of underground dealers, a fact that she had managed to keep hidden from everyone around her. The nature of these transactions suggested a carefully orchestrated plan to avoid detection, utilizing her medical expertise to gain access to controlled substances. Detective Martinez, along with her partner Detective Michael Green, reviewed surveillance footage from local pharmacies and hospitals where Emily had worked. They discovered a troubling pattern. Emily had made frequent visits to various facilities under the pretense of conducting professional consultations. These visits, however, were often timed with her acquisition of large quantities of prescription medications. It was evident that she was leveraging her medical credentials to bypass regulatory controls and obtain drugs that were later sold on the black market. The detectives decided to interview Emily's colleagues at Miami General Hospital and her former associates. The interviews revealed that, despite her high-profile career, Emily had been facing significant stress and financial difficulties. Several colleagues mentioned that she had recently started acting unusually, showing signs of anxiety and paranoia that had not been present before. However, no one had suspected that her stress was linked to illegal activities. One of Emily's close friends, Dr. Lisa Anderson, a 41-year-old oncologist who had worked with Emily for several years, provided valuable insights into her recent behavior. Lisa described Emily as a dedicated professional who had always maintained a high standard of ethics. However, she noted that Emily had recently been involved in a heated dispute with a fellow doctor over a research grant. Lisa mentioned that Emily had seemed increasingly withdrawn and preoccupied, but she attributed it to professional pressure rather than any criminal activities. As the investigation continued, Detective Martinez and her team focused on Emily's connections with known drug traffickers. They identified a key figure in the network, Javier Morales, a notorious drug lord with a reputation for violence and intimidation. Morales, a 45-year-old Miami native, had been on the police radar for years, but had managed to evade capture due to his ability to operate under the radar. His involvement with Emily was a significant lead that needed to be explored further. Undercover agents were deployed to gather intelligence on Morales and his operations. They discovered that Emily had been meeting with him regularly in clandestine locations, exchanging medications for large sums of cash. The evidence pointed to a direct link between Emily and Morales, suggesting that her involvement in the drug trade was not only extensive but also deeply intertwined with dangerous criminal elements. To gain more information, Detective Martinez arranged for a sting operation aimed at apprehending Morales and his associates. The plan was to gather enough evidence to charge Morales with drug trafficking and, hopefully, uncover more details about Emily's role in the operation. The sting involved surveillance, wiretapping, and undercover interactions with Morales' network. During the operation, the police were able to intercept communications between Morales and his contacts, which revealed that Emily had been under significant pressure from the drug cartel. It became apparent that she had been coerced into participating in the drug trade, likely due to financial troubles or threats from Morales. The intercepted messages also hinted at a possible fallout between Emily and Morales, suggesting that she might have been planning to exit the drug trade, which could have made her a target. As the investigation progressed, Sarah and Michael received a tip from a confidential informant who had worked with Morales' organization. The informant claimed that Emily had been involved in a plan to expose the cartel's activities, but before she could act on her intentions, she had been silenced. The informant's account added a new layer of complexity to the case, suggesting that Emily's disappearance was not just about drug trafficking, but also about her potential betrayal of the cartel. The detectives continued to piece together the evidence, focusing on the possibility that Emily had been murdered to prevent her from leaking information about the cartel. They also considered the possibility that her disappearance was a deliberate attempt to evade the cartel's threats and start a new life elsewhere. However, given the evidence of her murder and the brutal nature of the drug trade, the former scenario seemed more likely. As Sarah and Michael worked tirelessly to unravel the case, they faced mounting pressure from the public and the media. The community was increasingly concerned about the safety of its members, and the case had become a symbol of the pervasive dangers of the criminal underworld. Emily's family, particularly her mother Margaret and brother David, were devastated by the revelations and hoped for justice for their loved one. The dark secrets of Emily Carter's double life were gradually coming to light, painting a picture of a woman who had been ensnared by the very criminal elements she had sought to escape. The investigation had uncovered a web of deceit, coercion, and danger, but the ultimate truth about Emily's fate remained elusive. As the detectives continued their pursuit of justice, they faced the challenge of navigating the treacherous world of drug trafficking while seeking to bring closure to Emily's tragic story. As the investigation into Dr. Emily Carter's disappearance progressed, the Miami Police Department was faced with mounting pressure from both the public and the media. The discovery of her involvement in a dangerous drug trafficking ring had painted a grim picture of her final days, but the exact circumstances of her disappearance remained shrouded in mystery. Detective Sarah Martinez and her partner, Detective Michael Green, were determined to uncover the truth and bring those responsible to justice. The sting operation targeting Javier Morales and his criminal network had yielded some initial successes. Surveillance and wiretapping had provided a clearer picture of Morales' operations and his interactions with Emily. The intercepted communications revealed that Emily had been under significant duress, forced into the drug trade by Morales and his associates. However, despite the wealth of information, the detectives still lacked concrete evidence linking Morales directly to Emily's murder. The breakthrough came when an anonymous tip led the detectives to a remote warehouse on the outskirts of Miami. The tipster, who claimed to have knowledge of the cartel's inner workings, provided detailed information about a planned meeting between Morales and his top lieutenants. The warehouse, located in an industrial area known for its desolate and abandoned buildings, was identified as the site where Emily was last seen alive. Detective Martinez and her team conducted a covert operation to investigate the warehouse. Under the cover of darkness, they approached the building, taking every precaution to avoid detection. The warehouse was large and ominous, with rusting metal doors and broken windows that suggested years of neglect. The detectives carefully entered the structure, searching for any signs of recent activity. Inside, they discovered a series of disturbing clues. The warehouse was equipped with makeshift living quarters and storage areas for drugs and weapons. More importantly, they found a series of bloodstains and discarded personal items that matched Emily's belongings. Among the items were a bracelet and a medical ID card, which confirmed that Emily had been held at this location. As the detectives combed through the warehouse, they stumbled upon a hidden room in the back, which appeared to be used for interrogation. The room was stark and clinical, with a metal chair and restraints bolted to the floor. It was clear that the room had been used to intimidate or torture individuals. This discovery solidified the detectives' belief that Emily had been subjected to significant abuse before her death. The next step in the investigation involved piecing together the events leading up to Emily's murder. Through the wiretaps and surveillance footage, Sarah and Michael were able to reconstruct a timeline of Emily's last days. They discovered that she had been planning to meet with Morales to negotiate her exit from the drug trade and to expose the cartel's operations. However, her plan had been intercepted and Morales, fearing exposure and retaliation, decided to silence her permanently. The detectives worked relentlessly to locate Morales and his associates. They were aided by information provided by the anonymous tipster, but agreed to cooperate in exchange for protection. With the help of the informant's details, the police were able to track Morales and his top lieutenants to a safe house where they were preparing to flee the country. In a coordinated operation, the police raided the safe house, apprehending Morales and several of his key associates. The arrests were the culmination of weeks of investigative work and marked a significant victory for the Miami Police Department. Morales was charged with multiple counts, including drug trafficking, extortion, and murder. During the subsequent interrogation, Morales' associates began to unravel, providing detailed accounts of Emily's final moments. According to the testimony, Emily had been brutally attacked and executed in the warehouse after being deemed a threat to the cartel's operations. Her murder had been intended as a warning to others who might consider crossing the cartel. With Morales and his associates in custody, the detectives continued to gather evidence to build a solid case against them. The investigation revealed the full extent of Emily's involvement in the drug trade and her courageous, but ultimately fatal attempt to expose the cartel. The evidence included documents, financial records, and witness testimonies that painted a clear picture of the criminal enterprise she had been entangled in. As the trial approached, the media coverage of the case intensified. The story of Dr. Emily Carter's tragic end captivated the public, highlighting the dangers of the drug trade and the courage of individuals who risked everything to fight against it. Emily's family, particularly her mother Margaret and her brother David, were left to grapple with the devastating loss while seeking justice for their loved one. In a courtroom, the prosecution presented a compelling case against Morales and his associates. The evidence was overwhelming, and the testimonies of the informants provided a detailed account of the cartel's operations and Emily's murder. Morales' defense team attempted to argue that Emily's involvement in the drug trade had been voluntary and that her death was a result of internal conflicts within the cartel. However, the evidence was too strong, and the jury found Morales and his associates guilty on all counts. The verdict brought a sense of closure to the case, but it did little to ease the pain of Emily's family. Margaret and David attended the trial, finding solace in the fact that justice had been served, but struggling to come to terms with the loss of a loved one. Emily's story became a poignant reminder of the perils faced by those who find themselves entangled in the world of organized crime. In the aftermath of the trial, the Miami Police Department continued to investigate the broader network of drug trafficking operations that had been exposed through Emily's case. The dismantling of Morales' cartel was a significant achievement, but it was clear that the fight against drug-related crime was far from over. Emily Carter's disappearance and murder had shed light on the hidden dangers of the criminal underworld and the personal sacrifices made by those who dared to challenge it. Her legacy lived on through the efforts of law enforcement to combat drug trafficking and bring justice to victims of organized crime. The case served as a stark reminder of the consequences of crossing powerful criminal networks and the relentless pursuit of justice in the face of darkness.